Well, good morning. I will try to speak in English, but no worries because I speak Spanglish, so because I know that not all the people here is speaking Spanish, so I will try to do it in English, but anyway. So I will speak about the co-creation process of experiential tourism. I will try to make a short presentation. You know, it's nearly the lunch time, so I assume that you are a little bit hungry, so I will follow this structure. First of all, I will speak about some prior concepts that normally we take some concepts for granted, like the experience or co-creation, so then we will introduce some concepts. Then I will introduce the theoretical framework that that I created for my PhD. I'm really happy to be here today because it's for the last 4 years I investigated on that topic. So to have the chance to have a seminar just on aimed on investigating that topic, it's a really good chance for me. So then I will introduce some of the main findings of the research. It's a case study from Ibiza Island because I'm from Ibiza. So we did a research project there in 2015, and then I will introduce some key issues there. First of all, we will speak about the key factors determining experiential tourism because along the conference we were introducing the topic of experiential tourism or experiences, tourist experiences, but when I started studying that topic, I would like to know which factors were the key factors on co-creating that kind of alternative economic offering. Thank you, Barbara, because you introduced a lot of topics that they were really important for me. So like the Pine and Gilmore graph and the progression of economic value, for instance, and it's about, I agree with Barbara that it's about value creation, not only about price. So, and then I will finish with some conclusions. So first of all, I would like to introduce, to make a distinction here. We speak a lot about tourist experiences, and many people along the last, years is mentioning that the tourist is looking for an experience. But when you ask those people, what is an experience for you? Because it's not as easy as to explain or to conceptualize what an experience is about, because everything is an experience, it's their levels, it's like a dichotomic variable, or what is it about. So I had to make a distinction here between tourist experience and experiential tourism. Tourist experience is normally used on tourism research to describe the amalgam of offerings selected by the tourist, because in the end, as we were speaking, the guest, normally the experience economy talks about guests rather than customers. It's like the progression of economic value. When you speak about experience economy, you start dealing with guests instead of customers. But tourist experience is normally used on the literature to describe the amalgam of offerings that you consume within the destination. But I was interested on value creation, on making my object of study was experiential tourism as an alternative economic offering to create new value. As I am an economist, I was really interested on value creation, on economic value creation, how we can make a product which is more valuable, and we can achieve price premiums, or we can achieve high levels of willingness to pay, and so on. So here I would like to introduce some of the characteristics, because then I will speak about how we measure this on real terms. What is experiential tourism? I made a definition also for the dissertation because I didn't feel comfortable with the existing definition, so I had to make my own definition. So the main characteristics distinguishing experiential tourism from goods and services were memorable, unique, and extraordinary. It's a different economic offering that is memorable. Memorable, when we speak about memorability, we're speaking about that it's the capacity to remain, experiences or experiential tourism has the capacity to remain on your memory for longer. But it's precisely because we include feelings. What makes memorable something, it's feelings and sensations, sensory information, not the functional or the technical aspects of the product. Uniqueness, when we speak about uniqueness on economic terms, we're speaking about the absence of substitute offerings. Because when the higher or the more unique you become, the more inelastic is your demand, so your product becomes more differentiated. And finally, extraordinary, it's seen as the beyond the ordinary routine, and it's when we achieve higher values than the normal values associated to an offering. So that's the main characteristics that I discovered associated to that kind of offering. So it results from the stage co-created process. We will see that one thing is the co-creation process and the other is the main outcome or the resulting outcome. They are different things. One thing is experiential tourism, that is the product, and the other is how it's created, and it's the co-creation process there. So the business and the destination should be intentionally creating that. Intentionality is a must. I mean, you as a supplier, whether you become public or private, should or must be, have this kind of intentionality on creating or on involving, on what? On enhancing the guest perceptions and feelings. One thing is a perception when you, because I had to start some research on psychological and psychologists. Me as an economist at the beginning, I was like a little bit, But by the way, one thing is perception and the other is feelings. Perception is about what you catch about the external environment through sensory information and through thoughts. So you have the rational assessments there because it's really difficult to experience something, not to experience, but to feel something and, through your sensory information, and then the thoughts go hand on hand with sensory information. But the feelings are your change on the internal environment. So you have the tourist, then the tourist perceives something, not only through his senses, but also through his perceptions about your offering, but he has also an internal reaction or an internal response, and that are feelings. Feeling angry, feeling feelings of joy, feelings of interest. This is the internal response. So when, as you are speaking about co-creation, you will see that the guest has an active participation on the process. And for what we do that kind of things, we were starting this seminar speaking about differentiation. But in the end, it's for value creation purposes. So you have two strategies as a business. You can compete through costs or through prices, but you can also compete through differentiation. And here, experiential tourism is about competing in the market through differentiation. So it's not only for to achieve price premiums that you should adopt this kind of strategy, but it's precisely for value creation. So what's this? This is the slide when you start thinking about, okay, in Ibiza, they smoke a lot. Because here, this is the co-creation process. And I don't know why this is cut, because I will put some pictures there, and this is a mess, but anyway. This is the co-creation process. Why this is the co-creation process? This is a spider web. And this spider web is integrated by water drops. So, by the way, co-creation is like this. When you speak about co-creation, you have a guest. Imagine that this is your guest there. So this guest is coming to the destination and interacts, for instance, with your business that is there, and you cannot watch it. I don't know why. But you had an angry face. You also interact with the destination. I'm only regarding here to the emotional stimuli. You have other kinds of stimuli. On this spider web is not only integrated by emotional stimuli, but also by functional aspects of products and sensory. But we all interact, and I put this slide because then I will introduce my theoretical model, and maybe it's better to understand what the modeling is about. But on co-creation, everything is connected, and it's not only connected, everything is intertwined, and all the water drops are reflected on the other. So for instance, on that context, when the business is angry, for instance, if you imagine you arrive to a hotel and then the reception desk, he has a bad day, so then they start arguing with you or the guest. So the guest, in the end, which kind of experience or outcome generates? If you integrate, or if you interact with someone in the business who is angry, or for instance, now in the destination, and in some destinations we have really serious problems regarding congestion. I don't know if it's correct in English, but that people there, residents, started feeling a little bit angry. So then the experience is not the same. Maybe you are stressed as a guest. You achieve with this process of co-creation a stressed guest. But for instance, if you change, I changed the business, but anyway, now the business is happy. And then the destination is also happy. So then, do you think that we are co-creating the same experience to the guest? So the guest has another kind of experiences, and that's why experiences or experiential tourism is subjective, because it depends on the interaction, not only with the destination, but also with business. And that's the model that we are now going to introduce, the main results of the model. But if you appreciate it, it's a spider web. The co-creation process is represented through a spider web on which we have the interaction of the guest, of the business, private business, not only the hotel, for instance, then you have the aircraft and everything integrated there, but it's private business, but also the destination, because in some cases, experiential tourism can be created not only in the private level, but also in the public level. Maybe it's the destination that is creating the experiential tourism. And this co-creation process, the prior co-creation process is what explains the resulting outcome, that is experiential tourism. So one thing is the co-creation process, and the other is the resulting outcome, that it can be a good, it can be a service, and within the context of experience economy, we have experiential tourism. So this new offering is characterized by memorable, unique, and extraordinary features. So then we have like a kind of spectrum, and with it's not a dichotomic variable. It's not you are experiential or you are not experiential. What we found on the project is that some hotels or some offerings were introducing single sensory information. Maybe they were playing with a smell or with colors or with, but not as an integrated. They were just, so you have a continuum, sorry. So one of our challenges was to classify, for instance, some suppliers or some experiences within the context of this MUI scale. In Spain, we say MUE, and that's it. So we can classify the experiential level of that resulting offering, which arises as a result of co-creation, okay? So the higher the players involved on that co-creation process, the bigger is the spider web. For instance, here, this was the model that we replicated on the project. So we introduced two positive emotions. Then you will see how we measure this in real terms. But we started with guest interest and joy because they were really important in terms of the tourism industry. And in academic research, they were one of those positive emotions really used within the context of tourism. And for the business, we selected the accommodation as the business of reference, but you create, you can have the staff here, then you have the main offering, but for instance, if you offer food and beverage is like another part of the spider web, and everything is interconnected because, by the way, is what happens to your brain when you travel. Because you assess the hotel, you arrive, for instance, to an hotel, then everything, it's like, maybe the reception staff is so nice, but then on the breakfast time, the food is not as tasty as you expect, so then this is also a part of your co-creation process. And then we have the destination, because for us it was really important to include the role of the destination. For my specific case in Ibiza, the destination, what is creating value? What is creating experiential tourism? Is it the hotel? Is it the destination? Or what? So as a result of this process, we obtain a single outcome characterized by a given level of memorable, unique, and extraordinary. And that's how we try to measure these complex concepts, okay? So that's the theoretical framework, and now I'm going to introduce the main findings of that research. This was only one part of the research. The other, I cannot speak about the other because it's so long, but it was related with competitiveness, and there were some interesting ideas here, there regarding the value creation and so on. But anyway, first of all, I want to introduce the key factors determining experiential tourism. Now we know that what experiential tourism is about. On that conference, we are speaking about experiential tourism, about experiences, but some people might think, okay, that's nice. That case study or that practical implications are really, but how I do this? Now I have a business, so how can I do this on my business? So, on that study, we had a sample of 1,145 tourists, and then we tried to categorize all the variables that could be influencing the MUI scale, your perceptions of memorable, unique, and extraordinary. So just to have an idea, we measured the variables according to structural equation modeling. I don't want to give some details of the methodology because it's like a kind of complex, so it's only just to appreciate, I don't know why this is cut, but anyway, this is all the variables. And we did a factor analysis. Factor analysis with all the dimensions that you saw on the spider web here are represented by other items, are latent variables, are not directly observable. You just measure that variables through all the variables which in fact are observable. So, for instance, we have that the main offering of the business in the case of accommodation was the room, but we mixed functional aspects with sensory aspects. We had, for instance, the scent of the accommodation. For most people, or for many people, the scent, normally sensory information is a little bit like unconscious. We were speaking about, at the beginning of the session, the word subconscious came to mind. Subconscious is like, no, I don't like the word, and psychologists, neither. So it's unconscious or conscious. So sensory information normally relies on unconscious, and that's the main point. So we use both kind of variables, not only functional aspects of products, but also sensory information. And then we try to analyze which variables were most important. Sorry. Sorry. But this is the strong background of the project, okay? We had, and I just want to show you some of the descriptive statistics. As I have not much time, I will focus or emphasize on that context variable, because it was not really common to have, when I cooperate with hotel chains, they don't have that information, or hotels. They don't know if the product, what do you have? Do you have friends? Do you have families coming here? Do you have partners? Is people coming alone? We don't know. Okay, but maybe you are offering an experience for families and you have half of the business with friends. So the satisfaction won't be the same. So it was that point. And so, for instance, in the case of Ibiza, we have 50% of the guests were traveling with friends. So it's not the same experience. And sorry, because I have not much time. So this is the spider web from Ibiza. Every destination or every business can have something like this. It's a representation. The longer the axis, the higher the importance of this variable on co-creation. As you can observe, the most important variables here are guest interest and guest joy. That are the main points, or the variables sustaining the co-creation process, which in fact are feelings, are the guest feelings. And which is the other variable important on that co-creation process, the destination. On the case of Ibiza, maybe if I put this example on Mallorca or in another place, that the spider web won't be the same, because our business, for instance, they are just adopting that kind of strategies, but are not plenty. So the business, if you see, it's not what determines and on that case, the accommodation is not what determines. It was the destination which was creating this new economic value, ¿vale? So we measure experiential tourism, and I finish, it's just the last slide, sorry, through memorable, unique, and extraordinary. It's like a kind of new tool to analyze the experiential level of your offering. And this was only the coefficient, the standardized coefficient that we used to say, okay, co-creation has a positive effect on experiential tourism. Finally, this is the MUI scale, segmented, for instance, by nationalities. So then here, you have the level, the intensity level of the experiences. For instance, on the case of Ibiza, the USA tourists felt perceived a higher level of experientiality, for instance, in comparison with French. So this scale can be implemented in many segmentations. For instance, this is the segmentation by ages. For instance, here you have that the less than 30 years is the one of the here, is the one that perceives a high level of experientiality, while the ones higher than 50 were perceiving a lower level of experientiality. And finally, these were by context. So you can observe that the MUI scale for friends were higher than, for instance, people traveling alone or families. This, I remember that this is the case only for Ibiza Island. And here we have branches, but the confidence levels vary along segmentations, but here you can also classify the different hotels that you have depending or according to the level of experientiality, okay? That's it. I won't speak about conclusions but it's only to make a point. It's about intentionality. You as a supplier, you should intentionally create feelings and perceptions. You interact on the whole co-creation process through the guests, and guest feelings of joy, of interest, for instance, were the key factor sustaining co-creation on that case of Ibiza. This I don't have time, sorry, for entry, because it's really interesting that in some cases when you create experiences, they put an excessive price premium to that experience, so then you can be jeopardizing sustainability because it affects to the perceived value and then to satisfaction and to behavioral intentions. So we were really interested also in knowledge transfer and creating new tools for businesses to measure experiential tourism. And the managerial implications that I think the experiential marketing is better. And I just want to finish with that it was from the 70s, actually. It's not a new thing. My colleague introduced it. It's not as new as we think. It's not an incipient concept. And Alvin Toffler already noticed in the 70s that as rising affluence and traditions rapidly undercut the old urge to possess, consumers begin to collect experiences as consciously and passionately as once they collected things. So thank you. Sorry.
Muchas gracias, Natalia.